Okay, shall we start? Okay. All right. So this is the first time in a conference that I noticed that I start early. Great. So that means I have extra few minutes. So yeah, it's great to be here. I'm kind of like underdressed for the occasion, I feel. Underdressed. Okay, so today, am I clear actually? I can't hear what I'm saying myself. Weird. All right, so today I'm going to talk about a new protocol that we've been working on, that we're building now, called Bitcoin staking. I'd like to explain to you what it is, but I'd like to go back in history. So actually, a few months ago, Babylon and Eigenlayer, we co-organized a shared security summit at ETH Denver, and Sunny came to our event to give a nice talk, and we noticed that there was this one screenshot, one slide of his talk, and in this slide, he was talking about mesh security, but then suddenly Babylon showed up in his mesh security, and Bitcoin is also there. So we're wondering, okay, what's going on here? And after some discussion, we thought, hey, there could be this concept of Bitcoin staking. And so at that summit, he was saying Bitcoin staking is coming. So I'm glad to announce that Bitcoin staking is here. So Sunny asked, we deliver. So I'm so glad to be able to talk about it for the first time here at Osmocon. Okay, so Bitcoin staking. What's that? If you look at it, the two words, Bitcoin staking, it's kind of weird, right? Because, you know, Bitcoin is proof of work. Staking is proof of stake. So it's like, what the hell? How can these two words go together? So maybe this is the first time in history you see these two words together here. Guys, yes, please take a picture of this. First time in history. Bitcoin staking. So you plug into ChatGPT. Of course, every time you come up with a new concept, you need to ask ChatGPT whether it is a new concept. In case it's not, you don't want to embarrass yourself. And actually, ChatGPT gave me a lot of explanation of what this is. But it turns out the explanation is like a combination of Bitcoin and a combination of staking, but not the relationship between the two. So ChatGPT itself is confused. Hey, so if we're able to confuse ChatGPT, that means we've done something new. Okay, so this talk, I'm going to aim to explain what this BTC staking is all about, why it is quite a challenging technical problem to solve, but why solving it is a very meaningful thing for not only Cosmos, but for the entire proof-of-stake ecosystem. Okay? So that's the agenda today. All right. So what is BTC staking, right? So 3 things we observe, all right? One is that Bitcoin is a proof-of-work chain. But it is also a 600 billion asset, okay? So why not use it as a staking asset on a proof-of-stake chain? So that is the 3 basic thing. The fact that it's proof of work, which is a way of providing security, okay, does not hamper the fact that it is an asset, a crypto asset like any other asset, whether it's protected by proof of work or proof of stake. And so, therefore, it should be able to be used as the staking asset. So that's the observation. Each of the statement I think is correct. But if you put it together, I think it's a pretty powerful concept, actually. OK. Now, let's think about why Bitcoin as a stable asset is valuable. OK? It's valuable. So first is that Bitcoin, most of the Bitcoin on the Bitcoin chain is actually sitting around idle. There's not much DeFi going on Bitcoin. There's relatively very little bridging from Bitcoin to the rest of the ecosystem. The highest, one of the most high-valued bridge asset, wrap asset is wrap BTC. Wrap BTC is only about 4.7 billion market cap, which is less than 1% of the total Bitcoin supply. So overall, just like a rather idle, people hold on to Bitcoin, but they don't really earn much yield. So that's interesting. All right. Two, it is pretty decentralized. One can argue Bitcoin holders, all kinds of people, all kinds of asset holders, rather decentralized. And therefore, from a staking asset point of view, it's good because it provides a lot of decentralization to your network. Three is it's less volatile. Of course, everything's relative. Everything in crypto is volatile. Bitcoin is less volatile. So let's see. OK. So we did some analysis on this question. So we look at the data from like the past 12 months. OK. We have a sliding window of 30 days. We measure the volatility of the different crypto assets. The orange is Bitcoin, and the other ones are Cosmos assets, Atom, Osmo, Juno, Stars. Just as a comparison, you can see that among all these assets, Bitcoin has the lowest volatility. Now, as a security, right? As a security, you want a very stable security base. The reason is because security is a function of your market cap. The higher market cap, the harder it is to attack the chain. So you don't really want a very unstable asset, volatile asset, where market cap goes up and down, because when you're down, you are the weakest. And security is as good as the weakest link. So therefore, you want a stable asset. You want a stable asset. And Bitcoin, you can see, relatively stable. Of course, still relatively quite volatile in the crypto world, but stable compared to all these other assets. So the vision we have for this project of Babylon is to provide Bitcoin as a resource for staking, not only for Cosmos, not only for Osmosis, but also for the entire proof-of-stake world. Okay? So we want to be able to design protocol that can share the security of Bitcoin, a 600 billion asset, to any proof-of-stake chains that would want this asset as part of the staking asset portfolio. Okay? So that's the vision. And in this way, we are able to provide a very strong use case for Bitcoin, and the use case being providing security from the left to the right. And in return, the chains, just like any staking reward, will provide yield to these BTC holders, which are currently earning hardly any yield. So it's a win-win situation. OK? So that's what we want to promote, a win-win situation. Everybody wins. Nobody loses. Great. OK. However, to create this world that we're working towards, there are some hard technical questions to solve. And I'm glad to come today to report that we have solved them. Before I talk about the solution, OK, first I would like to talk about what are the challenges Okay, is this like another version or a version of mesh security? Okay, and it turned out that it poses several significant technical challenges because we're dealing with not any chain, but Bitcoin. And Bitcoin has some unusual characteristics that makes the problem very challenging. Okay, so now I switch from vision to nerd talk. Okay, so I'm becoming a nerd. Okay, so the first thing to observe is that what a BTC staking is providing, it is providing a two-sided market. Two-sided market, okay? There are two classes of participants in this market. First, on the left side, are the BTC holders, okay? And we want to convince as many of them as possible to provide their capital to stake, okay? On the right side are the proof-of-stake chains with their communities like this one, Osmosis community, who are going to decide whether or not they will accept BTC stake as part of their staking portfolio. Okay? So when we design this protocol, a BTC staking protocol, what we are doing is to design a protocol that ideally would make both sides happy, okay? So that they would participate in this market. Now, from the BTC holder point of view, they are happy if they find that they can earn yield, but yet they can stake in a very secure way. So BTC holders, the reason why they're earning very little yield now is because they don't want to take any bridging risk, for example, all right, to another chain and end up losing their money through some centralized custodial or some insecure bridges. Okay. So from the point of view of the proof-of-stake chains, okay, they want to make sure that the BTC asset is actually fully collateralized on the chain so that they can ensure that they won't attack the chain. And so we would like to implement full slashing, okay? So this is the two objectives. Now the challenges to implement these two objectives is the following, okay? So as I mentioned, BTC holders do not like bridges. Only less than 1% of the asset is in the wrapped BTC. So they like to keep the BTC on the secure BTC chain. And this prevents a relatively technologically simple solution to the BTC staking problem, which is to bridge the BT asset from the BTC to, say, Osmosis or to any proof-of-stake chain, and then use that as a staking asset on the chain. That would be a possible solution, but because of this first constraint, we had to rule it out. Okay? So no bridging of BTC to the proof-of-stake chain. Okay, if you have no bridging, then now you are hoping that the BTC chain will provide enough wisdom to allow you to implement slashing, okay? So remember that slashing is important, all right? Which means that if there is some bad things happening on the proof-of-stake chain, the Bitcoin that's sitting on the Bitcoin chain has to be slashed. Now, if Bitcoin had a smart contract, this could be done in a similar way as in mesh security, okay? So mesh security takes a IBC message containing evidence of the slashing event on the consumer chain, goes back to the provider chain, and then slash it on the provider chain using a smart contract like Cosmo wasn't. Bitcoin has no smart contract, okay? And therefore, we cannot we cannot do the slashing using a smart contract. So these are the two technical challenges that we run against when we try to convert this concept of BTC staking from vision to reality. Okay, so how do we solve these two problems? And here's the solution. All right, so our protocol. I would like to explain this protocol, all right, from the point of view of the staker, Alice. Okay, so what we achieved is the following. Without any forking of the Bitcoin chain, in other words, no smart contract, we can provide full security to the proof of stake chain, full slashable security, as well as what we call trustless staking for the Bitcoin holders, which means no bridging or no centralized custodial service. So everything is self-custodial. The Bitcoin never leaves the control of the staker. All right, so let's see how this is done. We have our Bitcoin chain here in orange, okay? Alice has one BTC, all right? Alice goes to the wallet and say, okay, one BTC, I want to stake on, say, Osmosis, okay, on Osmosis. So first, he goes into a staking contract, which is written in the BTC scripting language. So BTC has no smart contract. It does have a scripting language, though. And in this scripting language, it signs a contract which says that either two things can happen. Either it withdraws, Alice decides to withdraw the money at the end of the staking and then claim back the BTC in, say, 3 days, or Alice will burn the BTC into a burn address. So self-burning, all right? So you say, wait, crazy, this is crazy. Why would Alice burn this BTC? That doesn't make sense. But the point I want to emphasize in this contract is that the only person who can spend this one BTC is Alice. So it's completely self-custodial. All right, so let's see how this plays out. All right, so Alice, once it signs the staking contract, can now start validating, okay, a POS chain like Osmosis, okay? So it's going to sign on the Osmosis block, and the signature it uses, okay, will be the same signature as it uses to sign the Bitcoin, to control the Bitcoin address. Okay, so that's the connection between the staking on the validating the proof of stake chain and the contract on the Bitcoin chain. Now, if everything goes well, in other words, Alice is honest, okay, then it will keep on going, and then until it withdraws, and it gets the money back, and will obtain some reward from, say, the Osmosis chain. Happy, goes back. The Bitcoin goes out of the staking contract, done. Now, in case Alice does something bad, then, for example, suppose it forks the chain, okay, all right. Now, in this case, an attack has happened. And now we're supposed to slash Alice, okay? But remember, there is no way of doing a smart contract on Bitcoin. However, what we are able to do is to use some pretty swift cryptography to actually use this evidence of forking the chain directly, combining with an interesting signature scheme to force the leaking of Alice's private key, which she uses both to sign the blocks as well as to control the Bitcoin address. So now, once this key is leaked, then Alice no longer can withdraw, because now anybody with that private key can now force the second path, which is to burn the BTC into a burn address. So now slashing is now done through cryptography rather than a smart contract. Okay. Now, there are other benefits, but I'm running a little bit out of time. You may know that we already have a testnet which does time stamping, and it turns out that time stamping of Osmosis block onto Bitcoin is a very important element of this BTC staking protocol, because the time stamping provides fast cross-chain synchronization between Osmosis and Bitcoin so as to allow unbonding to happen only when you safely took away the voting power of Alice from the Osmosis chain. It turns out that our solution has a very modular structure. We don't need to change the consensus protocol like Tendermint. We don't need to change Tendermint. All we are doing is adding what we call a finality gadget on top of Tendermint, which is an extra round of this special signature that enables the forcing of the leaking of the private key, and that's enough. So we can build this actually on top of a wide range of proof-of-stake protocol, not only Tendermint, but also other protocols, Aptos, Sway, all these are possibility. The proof of concept we're building right now is on top of Tendermint, though, I should say. Okay? Now, you may know that, so what's the architecture of the system that we're envisioning? The architecture is that you can divide your system into two parts. One, we call the data plane, which are validators validating blocks of the proof-of-stake chain. And there are many proof-of-stake chains, many validators running this. Okay? Babylon is running a chain that acts as a control plane that helps to coordinate between the proof-of-stake chains and Bitcoin. For example, timestamping is a very important coordination mechanism. And Babylon will be doing the timestamping just like in our current testnet. Okay. So that is the architecture that we've been thinking about. All right. Okay. So what have we accomplished with this BTC staking? Our accomplishment is essentially that we find a very interesting use case for Bitcoin that is of high value to the proof-of-stake system worlds. So the vision is that we can use this as one way of unifying the two economies, the Bitcoin economies and the proof-of-stake economy. And finally, these are the team members who work on this problem. We have experts from cryptography, we have experts from the BTC scripting language to all make this work. And if you're interested, we have published our light paper. We published it last week. You can go and take a look, read the details, and you can also follow us for new information on this project. Thank you very much.